Hello, America. Welcome to the Voice of Freedom Radio, the voice of rural America. Our environmental message is the 3 C's plan: clean air, clean water, and common sense. And God bless all of our farmers and ranchers. We cherish our Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and will not give up our God, guns, or any of our freedoms or property rights. The Voice of Freedom Radio can be heard on KCFJ 570 AM every Saturday at 12 noon right after rush. I am Doug.
And I am Ross.
And I'm Anthony.
Doug, we've gotten a lot of mail and a lot of input in the last week. Tell us what the people out there are saying.
Number one, their information that we're getting a lot of is the fact is that they're very concerned about how the federal government and BLM and the wildlife department up there in Harney County in Oregon, how they're treating the Hammonds. And we've done a lot of research on it, and we've actually got so much feedback on it that we got a few people here that we're going to talk to you about, that we've got information from, and there's so much on it. You want to add anything to that?
Well, Doug, there's so much that's not being said in the public media that we try to bring it out and inform the people. And the information we've received from in the mail and in meetings on the street, tell us about it.
Well, Ross, Anthony, last Wednesday, we were in Klamath Falls, Oregon, and I met 2 people up there, and just conversations with those people. It seems like that it is a thing that is spreading. They want the truth out. And one of them was a gentleman that lived up in Klamath Falls. His name was Mr. Bob May. And boy, he was upset about what they're doing to the Hammonds and everything. And he says, you know what? If we had Trump in there, boy, he'd straighten it right out. So that man is an avid Trump fan, folks. I mean to tell you. And he's big enough also to...
Well, his point is, and it's well taken, that it needs to be brought out in every sort of media. The federal overreach is criminal.
You're right, Ross. And all the Voice of Freedom Radio is asking for is for the people. If you want to know what the truth is, you can go to our website. It's www.thevoiceoffreedomradio.com. On our website, you know, the Hammonds are sent up for 5 years because they started a fire and didn't burn anything, didn't cause any damage, and it's all in there. But yet, you can see on our website the outrageous criminal acts of the Bureau of Land Management up there.
And the U.S. Attorney.
Oh, that one?
That one.
Oh, you mean that's on...
Amanda Marshall.
You mean the one that's on investigation because she was stalking people in her own audience? I mean, her own...
her own employees.
Yeah, and in there seems like there was a little hanky-panky going on in there too.
Well, we don't know that. But more importantly, she's out of a job. And in my opinion, she belongs in a limited space.
They call that a jail cell.
Yeah, exactly.
And to back that up, even on Fox last week, Lou Dobbs, he came on there along with Greg Walden, and the congressman up there, and he even told that Greg Walden, that lady needs to be prosecuted. So this is getting around.
It is. It is. And we'll talk about Greg a little bit later on.
Yep.
But what happens is these bureaucrats decide they have way too much power. Instead of being the servants, they decide they are the masters, and they're going to teach the public a lesson. You know, these people do something that upsets them, and so they use their power tyrannically. They use it unconstitutionally was the right word, and they abuse the power in that process, and they make these small ranchers, they make their lives miserable, and it's not only unjust, it's unlawful, but it's permitted under our system. It really upsets me.
Well, you know, there was another person up there that we met, and was up at the, up there at the across from the hospital there, where Doc Casey and all them surgeons,
In Klamath Falls?
Yeah, up in Klamath Falls.
Yeah.
And there was a little lady in there, and we was sitting there, and I had one of them little bobble deals, that's a solar deal, it's got the snowman on it, and it was sitting there, and we discussed that, and I was talking to this lady. This lady is a very nice lady. She was a pleasure to talk to. Do you know what that lady had? Common sense. And you know what subject we talked about? The Hammonds. It's spreading in Oregon, all over. And we're going to continue to do that. And that special lady, ladies and gentlemen, her name was Charlotte. So Charlotte, God bless you. Keep up the good work. Spread the word up there, and spread our website and our radio programs so we can get this out into the open.
What's the website?
The website is www.thevoiceoffreedomradio.com.
That's thevoiceoffreedomradio.com.
That's
Yes,
all one thing.
Well, Doug and Anthony, down here in California, we've got the Jefferson movement to separate and allow Northern California to take back the control of its land and its property rights, its freedoms. Something like that should be happening in Oregon as well. But Anthony, you have a message about Jefferson. I'd like to hear it.
Well, thanks, Ross. I think it's ironic that we've decided to name the new state that we're going to take out of Northern California the state of Jefferson, because Thomas Jefferson, frankly, is one of my heroes. And he had a little bit to say about what people's rights are when they're being abused. Mm-hmm. And he wrote it all down in a couple of little documents we know about. It's our Declaration of Independence and our preamble to the Declaration of Independence. And what I'd like to do, Ross, is read that. Now, I know nobody likes to get read to, so I'm going to change a few words in here. I'm sure Thomas Jefferson would approve, so that we can see how the words that he wrote over 200 years ago apply to what we're trying to do right now with the state of Deseret.
Absolutely.
Excuse me, Jefferson.
I'm positive that it's more than relevant in today's world.
Yeah.
Would you continue, please?
Well, yeah. Here we go. Now I'm going to change a few words, and feel free to jump in and comment.
Now, don't confuse people.
I'm trying not to, but I'm trying to make it more understandable.
Now, you watch him, Ross.
I will.
Make sure he don't mess up.
Yeah, that's likely to happen, I'm sure.
Uh-oh.
Here we go. When in the course of current events, Jefferson wrote human events, I put in current events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the cause which impelled them to the separation. So we're declaring the cause that impels us to separate from the state of California and to become the state of Jefferson. Okay?
I understand that, but let's talk for just a moment about why we're compelled to leave California.
Oh, I want to hear this.
Well, 3 letters, EPA.
Okay.
4 letters, CARB, C-A-R-B.
How do you spell moonbeam?
Well, that's 2 words.
How
That's
many
2
letters?
words you're challenging me there.
How many letters is in there?
Yeah.
More importantly, it's tyranny. Now, Anthony, you
Well-
can explain tyranny better than 2
I
little
can.
old farm boys.
Well, tyranny is simply taking powers upon yourself that you really don't have. It's taking the power that you have and using it to abuse the rights of others. You know, there are just some things you can't do. If you're standing in line to go to your favorite movie one night and you see somebody crowd in line in front of you, what do you want to do?
I want to speak out.
Yeah, you step in. It's common law. Everybody understands that. But the tyrant will demand that you sit down and shut up and that he can get in line and he'll create some silly reason for it. A tyrant is somebody that abuses the rights of others.
There you go. He spelt moonbeam.
Yep, he did.
Well, let me go on. Jefferson continued. Now, these words we've all heard before, but I want you to think about these in terms of creating our new state of Jefferson. We hold these truths to be self-evident, obvious, in other words, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. All of us in Northern California deserve that, just like everyone else in the country. But Jefferson continues, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That means we are the ones that decide who will govern and how we will be governed. The power is in us, not in our leaders. The power is in us. Anyway, he goes on, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute new government. There it is, folks. It is our right. It is our God-given duty to separate from the state of California when the state of California is abusing our rights, when the government becomes destructive of the ends that we all want from a government. Anyway, he goes on and he says, prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. We recognize that. We're not doing something frivolous here, folks. What we want to do is profound, and it's important because it will preserve our rights. It'll preserve those rights for us, for our children, and our children's children. It'll allow us to keep our land and do with it as we decide. That's vital.
Well, more importantly, it not only allows us to preserve our rights, it allows us to recover our rights.
Yeah.
We no longer have the rights that we had decades ago. The Hammonds are a perfect example of that.
You're right, Ross, and I'd like to speak on that subject right now. According to the BLM up there in Harney County, up by Burns, the Hammonds went out and set a fire on his property because, like all ranchers and farmers, they use the source of fire to get rid of the obnoxious weeds and also to revitalize the range. And when he did this, the fire got off his property, which they had 6,000 acres, folks. And this is a common practice up there to burn stuff off. It went and was charged for underneath the 1996 Terrorist Act, destroying government property. Well,
the fact that they cited that law means that they were already reaching to find something to complain about, because it's such a common practice. For them to jump on the Hammonds with that objection, it tells you right away they were searching for some reason to get even with them.
There were two, Anthony. There were two logical reasons why they were searching. One, that they were trying to conceal the fact that they literally burnt homes and livestock in an attempt to do the same thing that the Hammonds were doing successfully.
Oh, you mean BLM had done just exactly the same thing, only worse, and nobody ever prosecuted them, nobody ever objected to them, but when the rancher does it, he's in trouble.
That's exactly right.
well, they've been
I should say exactly wrong.
Well, but yeah.
More importantly, the U.S. attorneys in Oregon collectively are bragging to Washington, D.C. about their ability to collect fines and build coffers for the U.S. Attorney's Office. That's wrong, folks.
That's the very definition of tyranny. Their job is to protect the people, not prosecute the people.
That's right.
Yeah, but who was wanting to do this? This was the U.S. attorney that President Obama appointed.
Yeah,
This woman, and come to find out, she was pushing it because after the Hammonds were cited, I think it was back in 2001 or something like that, and the Hammonds called in and informed the people that they was going to do this burn. And they did it, and then this thing got away from them, which it didn't destroy anything. It really helped some more rangeland. But yet when they wanted to prosecute the Hammonds, the local DA in Harney County evaluated the whole situation, folks, and said that there wasn't nothing there because this is the practices that all the ranchers and the farmers do.
Yeah, but BLM got their back up. Some bureaucrat decided that that wasn't right, and they were going to persecute the Hammonds. But they were going to force them to do what they wanted to do. Government forcing private citizens for the purposes of personal vendettas is absolutely wrong, and that is the very definition of tyranny.
But when they wanted to prosecute the Hammonds underneath 5 years, there was a local judge up there, Hogan, and that judge realized that what they was asking for was unrealistic. You know what I mean? It's like putting a guy in the jail for 5 years for jaywalking.
Yeah.
But this is what happened.
This is exactly what happened.
But then the head of the refuge up there and his wife was tied in on it. And they thought that this was all wrong, that the Hammonds ought to be strung up, like it was years ago. And they wanted to go and have them go for 5 years. Well, the U.S. attorney up there by the name of Amanda Marshall, like Ross said a while ago, she went and was pushing it. And it went all the way to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, and they upheld it. Then they did it to the U.S. Supreme Court, and they upheld this deal. But the U.S. attorney lady is she's not there no more. They got rid of her.
She wasn't satisfied.
No.
She wasn't going to take the court's decision. She had an ulterior motive. She was a tyrant.
I know that, but so was the person that was in charge up there of that refuge and his wife. They was both tied into this.
All of them.
All of them. You know,
Well, it's called control. That's all it is. We will control the rancher. We will control the land that we really don't have any auspice over. But we're going to do it anyway, as long as the people sit back and let us do it.
The problem is these people have forgotten they're public servants. They believe they're public masters. They believe they should be able to dictate to the public how all things should be done. They do not recognize individual rights, only the agency that they work for. It's all wrong.
but these up there, that refuge up there, it's a very big refuge, and the BLM has been harassing the Hammonds up there for years.
They're trying to make it bigger. They want to extend. Look,
That's what
it's kingdom building. You see it in corporations. You see it everywhere. It just has no place in the government.
Well, don't lose sight of once the federal government takes control of that land, they are unrestricted in what they wish to do with it.
Yeah.
If there's precious minerals on that land or under that land, the federal government has no obstruction to go ahead and mine, to go ahead and drill. Because, folks, all the agencies that would stop any other landowner are also federal agencies.
Yeah, they can't stop the BLM from doing what they want to do.
But you know what? We've been
Well-
talking a lot and covering a lot about this, ladies and gentlemen. But you know, if you really want to see about it, all you got to do, because everything we've been discussing here among us, we've got it on our website. We got videos that show the BLM land. They're charging the Hammonds with a fire that got off his land for 120 some acres or whatever, didn't do any damage whatsoever, and they're wanting to put him up the creek for 5 years and his dad.
Yeah, what we're saying is the charge is excessive given the action, giving the accusation.
Yeah, but they've increased over the years. They've increased that Hammond. I mean the refuge, because Hammond's bought his property back in 1964, and he bought 6,000 acres. And as the other ranchers and the farmers were forced out, that refuge sort of wrapped around Hammond's ranch, and the water supply for their cattle, BLM and down that refuge in there, they cut it off.
Yeah, they've done everything they
They
could.
cut it off, and then Hammonds couldn't get to his property, so because it went through the refuge, and so they blocked off the road.
Yeah, they've been doing everything they can to try to strangle the Hammonds. They've been, it's like a range war going on up there, and it's a private citizen pitted against the federal government. Who's going to come out on the short end of that stick?
Well, I understand that, but it sure is not.
It's a parallel course to what happened not too long ago in Nevada. Matter of fact, several different times in Nevada, but most recently on the Bundy Ranch down outside of Las Vegas.
Oh yeah,
So folks, why do you think the Bundys are out here trying to help a rancher in Oregon?
Yeah, because they know what it's like to be oppressed by your government. When your government becomes the enemy, what recourse do you have? You can't charge your government. You can't reason with your government. It's like a unstoppable machine. It just keeps on going.
It's a tank without a driver.
Yeah.
well, there was
Anyway.
an article last week in the Herald and News, and it was Representative Greg Walden up there, and he gave an article in the Herald and News, and he admitted that BLM was gone awry of what they was doing, the federal government and all of that, and he went ahead and tried to correct that, but then BLM told him to hang it in his ear or something like that, told him to go stuff it. I think that's exactly what it says, but here's the problem. If the ranchers got a problem, where do they go to get it solved? They ain't got nowhere to go. Nowhere. You can't go to your politicians.
Because he's a politician.
Yeah, and he's dancing. They're Gandhi dancing. Look at all the things that's happening up there in Eastern Oregon, where Eastern Oregon and Northern or Eastern Washington, they want to go to the state of Idaho. And we got a third of the counties in California that wants to break away. So it's all over. Come on, Anthony.
Well, Doug, just for 1 second, let's go back to politicians. Anthony, you have a beautiful analogy of what a politician amounts to. Tell us about that hot air balloon.
You want that story?
Yes, sir.
Imagine we're all in one of those hot air balloons and we're high in the sky and enjoying the scenery and the balloon drifts towards the mountains and we're not quite sure where we're located, and we see a hiker making his way up a path on the side of the mountain, and we call out to him, "Hello," and he answers back, "Hello," and we say, "Where are we?" And the guy answers back, he said, "You're in a balloon." And I turn to you, Ross, and you, Doug, and I say, that guy is a politician. And Doug says, "How do you know that?" Because what he told us is absolutely correct and totally useless.
That's a perfect definition.
Oh, I had one here that back a while ago, back several years ago, when we was the Fix It First and trying to correct the problems here in the hospital, and as a county hospital, then later determined whether we need to go to a deal. And we had it in the Modoc record over here. And it was a picture, and it showed the 3 supervisors that was sort of in one position on one end of the boat, and 2 of the ones that was wanting support to do the hospital, correct it before we go to a district. And the boat was sinking. And the people that wanted to go to the hospital district said, "I know I can solve this problem with this boat sinking." And you know what they did? They had a power drill with a DC power drill, and they was cutting a hole in the bottom of the boat. And they're sinking. This makes as much sense as that balloon you was talking about.
Well, it also makes as much sense as referring to those that object to what's going on in Malheur area, referring to them as idiots.
Yeah.
That's not a valid argument.
No, there's no logic in that. That's just name calling. In the art of debate, it's called ad hominem attack. You attack the person. If you can't make a logical argument, then you say something nasty about your opponent. And that doesn't contribute anything to the debate. It's just name calling. It's childish.
Well, it seems to be the agenda of the local newspaper editor.
Yeah.
Let me give an example, okay?
Please do.
Last week in the Modoc County Record, January 14th, 2016. Notes. This has been an interesting week with a lot of things going on in Modoc County. We were able to get some of them, but some details will be coming out next week. As far as the idiots still holding the birds hostage in Oregon, I don't see any activity from them showing any sign of logical intelligence, so we'll just let that description stand. What do you think of that, Tony?
I think that's an ad hominem attack. That's name calling. It certainly doesn't contribute anything to the discussion. I think the discussion should be better than that. I think we should aim higher. We should talk about the issues. Name calling never works, whether it's in a regular piece or in a op-ed piece. Name calling does not help the debate at all.
and in this particular case has no place in the argument.
Yeah, that's the reason. Look, I'd like to go back to this thing that Thomas Jefferson said. Now we've established that we have seen a long train of abuses like he talks about. We really have some problem. Well, let me read this, because Jefferson said it better than I can say it. Prudence, he said, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. We are not trying to do something frivolous, as I said. We are trying to do something very important. And accordingly, continues Jefferson, all experience hath shewn that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. In other words, we'll put up with a lot before we'll do anything about it. And the fact that the people, or the patriots, are trying to do something about it now is a clear indication that this has gone too far. But then Jefferson continues. He says, and this is the part, but when a long train of abuses and usurpations, which is precisely what's happening with the Hammonds, the Bundys, and the rest, it's happening everywhere we turn. The federal government is trying to take away our firearms. The federal government is trying to take away our lands. This is the very source of the problem in Oregon. But it happens a lot in western states because huge chunks of territory are controlled by the federal government. And the federal government therefore dictates to the people what they want done instead of the people governing, which is what Thomas Jefferson is totally against here. So, continuing, when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object, that is, the same purpose to take away our rights, evinces a design or shows the purpose to reduce us under absolute despotism, it is our right, Jefferson wrote their right, but it means it's our right, it is our duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for our future security. This is vital. Such has been the patient sufferance of these northern counties. Now, I'm putting northern counties in there because Thomas Jefferson wrote colonies, but it is precisely for these reasons that the northern counties in California want to become a new state of Jefferson. Such has been the patient sufferance of these northern counties, and such is now the necessity which constrains us to alter our form or systems of government. And I'll add in there, to create a new state that will justify our rights. The history of the present state of California, I put in here, Thomas and Jefferson wrote King of Great Britain, but the history of the present state of California is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations. Those are Jefferson's words, all having indirect object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these northern counties. So I just add, in conclusion, therefore, we seek to establish a new state of Jefferson. Why do I keep saying that? Jefferson, to free ourselves from the tyranny of California.
That sounded pretty good, Tony.
It's the argument that's being offered in Sacramento now regarding the 21 counties in Northern California. It needs to happen. It needs to renew the citizens of Northern California, soon to be Jefferson, rights as citizens to take command and control of our
lives, our property, our well-being. Yeah.
Well, folks, we've discussed quite a bit here this afternoon. We got a few more things we'd like to talk about. And one of them is, the fact is that most of what we was discussing today will be available. And if you go to our website, www.thevoiceoffreedomradio.com, you can see what we're talking about. You can hear what we're talking about. And also, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to make this announcement that next week we're going to have a special guest on this program. And heads up, Cedarville, because the person we're talking about, you well know who he is. He's well loved over there, respected. And
Are we talking about Mike Small?
he ain't small, he's big.
Oh, Big Mike.
Big Mike Small.
And he's going to be on the show?
That's correct.
We're going to have to enlarge the studio.
Well,
Or get a bigger microphone, one of the two.
oh, you guys are cruel.
Big Mike, we look forward to having you here.
And, he's going to talk about some of the things where he's at. He's down in Riverside and what they're doing down there on the environmental things. And he's well aware of it. When we was the Modoc Independent Tea Party, he was also our secretary of it. And he is working and putting our website together more every day. And he will be here next week to say hello to all the people that remember Mike. And I'm sure you'd like to hear him because he's going to give his opinions on a lot of the things that's happening right here.
Or are we going to have to go to a longer show?
Well, by golly,
if Mike's going to voice his opinions, that could take a significant amount of time.
Hey, for Mike Small, we'll go an hour, partner. How's that sound?
There you go.
But people in Cedarville, even over here in the Alturas area, Mike Small will be our guest next week. And also, ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking about some of the things that's harmful to the ranchers and everything. And, the environmentalists want to take and bring back all these wolves. And now we got one here located in Northern California.
Well, if you see one, there's more.
It's amazing where Fish and Game knows where all of these wolves are. Like over in Siskiyou County, they set up trail cameras and they got the whole nest and everything like that. It's amazing how they knew they was where they was at. Same way here in Modoc. It's gonna, these ranchers and farmers go out there right now in the snow. It's cold, icy. In the morning, it's freezing. They go out there, they feed their cattle in the morning, they feed their cattle in the evening. They have to give them shots. It's a business. And yet now they got to worry about wolves. And so,
folks, don't take our word for it. Talk to a rancher who's experienced the devastation brought on by coyotes. Now we're talking about wolves.
But also, and especially, hello, Oregon, around Burns and all up in there where you can hear our voice. There's people up there in Oregon, the Oregon State Wildlife and everything. They said, well, if you got cattle out there and the wolves come and eat it, we'll take care of it. We'll make up for the damages. But the ranchers up there in Oregon, they've had problems trying to get their money away from, out of the state. The state says, we'll do something. Then they turn around and say no. They take the position with the environmentalists, and it's going all over.
Doug, isn't it about time for a commercial?
You're right. I'm getting tired here, rascals. I mean, Ross.
Well,
ladies and gentlemen, what you've heard on this program today, it's all available on our website, the videos that'll show you the truth. And them, in the opinion of the Voice of Freedom Radio, those people up there that's in that wildlife deal, they're drawing attention so they can get the public to make sure that the public knows the truth, what's really happening to the Hammonds.
That's the same thing we're trying to do.
Same thing, folks. You're listening to the Voice of Freedom Radio. Our shows can be heard online at thevoiceoffreedomradio.com. Or we can be heard on the
Voice of Freedom Radio, 570 AM, noon, right after rush, every Saturday.
Folks, I'm glad he woke up then. Thank you, Ross, because I was...
Glad he woke.
Hey, glad he woke up then. That's good English, ain't it?
Yeah, that's perfect.
It is?
Perfect.
Folks,
Ladies and gentlemen, you don't know what good time we're had today, this Saturday out here. And, letting you people know that we're just human, and all we want out, folks, is the truth. That's all we're asking. And you can get it if you go to our website. And you can see that we're telling the truth. And don't let this local newspaper here in town inform you of a lot of things, because...
You mean the one that does the name calling?
Oh, yeah.
well, folks, our only agenda is liberty.
Liberty, freedom, and the truth.
Absolutely.
Well, Ross, we're right at the end of this program on this Saturday, and I'm glad that you woke up here. You got to help me, Anthony. He was sleeping. Why didn't you nudge him a little?
Hey, I wasn't snoring, was I?
I didn't want to get poked in the nose when he woke up, so I left it up to you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate all you people out there, whether you're with us, against us. At least you're listening. We know you're out there. And the people up around Klamath in Oregon, pick up on this website. We're not here to cause trouble. We're here to give you the truth. You may not like to hear it, but when you hear it, it's always a positive thing, because my daddy always told me many years ago, son, if you always tell the truth, you never have to remember what you said until this next week.
And Doug's always good at forgetting about what he said.
You guys got an extra barn out there, a stable or something we can put him in?
Okay.
Until next week, Doug.
Say your thing, Doug.
At this very same time, next week.
Good.
From the land that you love
There we go.
and the God that created it.
Good day, America.
Good day, folks. See you next week. Check out that website. We'll make sure Ross is awake next week.